What's up, this is Bassbleed. We're gonna be chilling, making a beat. Let's start off with some FL keys. I like to do it in here because usually I don't keep it in FL keys, but I like to make it in it because it's a lightweight program, so it doesn't take up a lot of its, the computer's ability to function. So I'm gonna pull up scales I have from this kit. You can get these types of things pretty much anywhere. But all these are just MIDI, so you drag it in and it makes the sampler in the background show the notes in the ghost track, so it helps you stay onto the key. For this one, I'm gonna make it like 155. Just put out some bass notes to start off with. Okay, and then I have an idea for this. So these are back to back, so they sound really good if you do one here and then the second one here. So it's like I'm gonna add some shit to this, obviously. Gotta give these a lot more spice. That was a beautiful voice crack too, by the way. It's really just screwing around with this, seeing what sounds good. Whenever you have these, like, that's why it helps to have these scales, because whenever you have these back to back, it's a good indicator that you can use them conjointly and it sounds good. Because you see this, like, going from D sharp to D sounds very good with that chord when you transition it. So it's like, I still gotta add more to that, obviously, but no. When you get better, kind of like thinking for how the sound should go overall, the more you do it, the more the more repetition you put into it, it'll, you know what I mean? But something doesn't sound right there. Try that bottom note there. Nah. Alright, so now I feel like I have a base set of chords that sound good, so I'm ready to get out of FL keys, because like I said, I rarely use it. Even when I do piano stuff, I usually use Flex. I love Flex, because, you can pay for something that's expensive and a ripoff, but I don't know. I mean, if I had, like, shit tons of money, maybe I would, but I just like to use Flex because it's free and simple. I have a few paid plugins, but it's like you get what you pay for. If you need something that's paid, get it. You know what I mean? But if you really don't, it's like, but I like Flex because it's got a ton of different plugins and it comes free on there on FL. So I have this preloaded and it's going to be some random shit. So that's why I'm going to go to my favorites that I've already saved and check some of these out first. Nah, it's really just like playing around with it. Yeah. Let's go to something that I know is going to be like. Maybe, but really, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I want to go for something more like gentle and relaxing. Let's try this. Ooh, there we go. See, that was kind of a fumble on my part. I was gonna try doing a different chord for the, or yeah, different chord for the second one. But I'm just gonna copy this same chord over here and put it on this side, on the second part here, because I don't know. It gives us some like call and response kind of effect to it, and I think that that's very important in a melody. You know, you don't always gotta do it, but if you do it like that, it does kind of help. Yeah, some sort of call or response is important, I feel like. Okay. Uh, all right, so yeah, we'll start this from the top just to see how it sounds. Oops. Okay, so we got a good something going on here. And a big thing that I do, like I said, it's all about like, I mean, you know, over time, gotten better computers and whatnot, but I think like you should always work as if you're working on a computer that can barely handle anything, because then if you just give your computer a light load, you're never going to have issues with it. So instead of having it constantly run this whole program, we're going to go, I right click pattern one here, which would have this, and then I'm going to get quick render as an audio clip. This doesn't send it out to your files. It only keeps it within the project, which I think is very helpful actually, because you don't have a bunch of stuff being stored. But quick renders audio clip, boom, you have this right here. So, whoops. But yeah, so then you can, I'm gonna go to stretch. I'm gonna try pitching it down, to be honest. So that gives us kind of like syrupy, kind of like utopian. I don't know, maybe utopian is the wrong word, but I like the vibe of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep it like that. The first thing I'm doing is bringing this TDR Nova, one of the best free equalizers out there. Like I said, why would you pay for something you can get the same thing for free? Unless it's like auto tune or something where you want it to be good, where it's like technology. But so I'm gonna go to this equalizer with all 808s and everything. You gotta have your high pass on, so there's nothing in this bottom area because this bottom frequency, it's barely transmissible to human ears, and it's really just pointless. So for this, we're just gonna listen to this as we work with the EQ to kind of get a feel for it. All right. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like, you just gotta tap into your emotions. Cliche as it sounds, like you just gotta think about something that like makes you feel a strong emotion in some way, and it really helps to come out of you. All right, so I got that little equalizer going. Before the equalizer, this is important. Put it before it. I'm gonna put on some reverb. Make sure on your melodies that your reverb is going before your EQ. All right. And then something that I think is extremely slept on, especially on YouTube with producers, is the sound goodizer. It's a free built-in thing, and it's got presets that include like it gives it a little bit of saturation, it gives it some other effects. You gotta tweak with it. There are 4 different settings, and the settings vary. You'll need different settings for different things. And then the last thing I'm gonna do with this is I'm gonna go over to my gain section over here, and I'm gonna go to Fruity Stereo Enhancer. I'm sorry, and Separation, this would be if you're playing it on a speaker. Say you got some like nice studio speakers. You got the top little. So there's like two speakers on it, right? There's a top speaker that's like smaller and a bottom speaker that's wider. The bottom speaker is just bass, and the top speaker is just your treble sounds. So this is saying if it was on a stereo and we crank it all the way this way, this track is only going to play on the top and just play in the back, like just play meshed in with everything with the top speaker. This is going to separate it and put it all the way at the bottom. So like if we were doing 808s, it's good to have some separation so it's only playing on the bottom. But with this, we actually want the opposite because it's a melody. We want it to blend into everything. So we're going to merge it all the way. I'm going to move this before the sound goodizer. Sorry, I keep walking up. Not walking up. I keep leaning forward into the mic. I'm sorry. Okay, so we got a pretty good melody down. Um, there's like a 99.5% chance I'm gonna make another melody later, but I'm like excited to get to the drums, so we're gonna do that. So first we're gonna start off with the drums, right? Or not start off, but we're gonna do the drums. Um, 9 times out of 10, whenever I'm doing hi-hats, I start off with a two-step. A lot of people do this, so we're gonna go to just one of these hats, kind of like this one. This one has some potential to it. So. And whenever you see me going over here, these are all things that I've made over the years. I'll probably do another video on how to come up with these presets. Maybe I'll even do it after this. I might. But I'm gonna go to my preset hats. And by the way, these turkey kits, I made these last Thanksgiving. But if you guys want them, just DM me. I always put my Instagram in the bio for the description. If you want any of these presets, hit me up and I'll sell you one for like on the cheap. I'll probably give you like 5 for $10 or so. These are all stuff you can just drag right on, and it's all stuff that's built into FL. But we're gonna go the hats. Turn off the loop point. Go over here. You've probably seen this 100 times on YouTube tutorials, but turn down the attack, turn up the hold, and then everything else. Decay, sustain, release gets turned down. So it makes it as soon as you press the key, you hear it immediately, no delay. And it makes it so only what you click, like only for the length of this, is actually going to play. Um, yeah. So I'm going to start off with the two-step hi-hat on here. Very simplistic, but it's a good kind of like basis point. It gets you just a generic rhythm going with it. And then once you get this kind of going is where the fun comes in. I'd say 99% of songs that you're going to hear made in FL are going to be just starting with the two-step and then some sort of edit to it. Like a lot of it is just like they add stuff to the two steps or they'll take certain notes out. Yeah, so I'm gonna take a note and I'm gonna place it underneath because it gives a way different sound. You hear this pitched up, pitched down, and that sounds a little harsh, so I'm gonna turn down the velocity on that. And then I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna stretch the note out, move it up here so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up here, so it's right before your third bar or segment where you put the clap. And then take this little thing here, select it, Alt A. The shortcut is Alt A on Windows, and then it gives you to this arpeggiator, and then you go up to this time multiplier, you twist it back, boom, you have a roll. So not much, right? You got to do a lot more with this stuff, but once you have this first roll too, it's super easy. You just copy and paste wherever you want to add rolls. So I like to do higher rolls too sometimes. So and then I'm gonna go back and probably put another here, but then pitch this one like slightly down, but not so much. And then another thing that is big with me is I really just do the designing on the first five, and then I copy and paste it over with the hi-hats because there's no need to have completely unique hi-hats on the whole thing. It's just going to be distracting. So and you can make this as simple or as complex as you want. Like, if you make it very complex, you run the risk of it being distracting to the listener. If you make it super simple, everyone's just gonna be like, "Oh, this is basic." So it's like, you know what I mean? You just gotta like think about how much you overdo something or how much you do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then just putting this third note here. I'm not changing the note at all. I'm just adding another note sandwiched between these two. This makes a very good sound. It makes like a roll, but it's like slower. I'm gonna do another one of those right here. Whoops, didn't mean to move that. Let me undo that real quick so it doesn't screw me up. And then put this back here. All right. And then, like I said, I'd like to just do the designing in the first five bars. So I'm just gonna take all these, delete them, and then Control A, Control B. I've seen a lot of people do this, and I was like trying to figure out for the longest time how to do it, and so I'm glad. I hope you guys can pay attention to this. But yeah, Control A, Control B helps you select the entire thing and then just paste it right over. It's such a blessing when you need it. So then we got these hi-hats. They're a bit loud. I'm gonna take them back. Gotta put my stereo enhancer back on it, on this one as well. And all this stuff can be searched for on the side. It's just easier to access it here if you know what you're looking for. I'm going to separate or merge them all the way so it's the same thing. And then, if you're wondering what we have going on with this equalizer on the hats, you could do a lot with them. Since these ones are high pitched, I'm going to set this up here, bring back the low pass a bit. Actually, I'm going to turn the high pass like kind of down to bring out more of the body of it in the lower notes, but I don't want to have it exposed too much of the high end because it's a very sharp like hi-hat. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Then we're going to bring some clap. I'm trying to decide if I want to do a clap or a snare. I think I'm going to go with the clap for, convenience sake. I say that and then I can't even find one. Here we go. Another one of these presets. Hit me up, Bassbleed on Instagram for any of those presets. I will send them to you for very cheap. Same thing with this. This is really what you do with any sample, to be honest. Is that thing with the hold and the tension and all that. So we got a clap here. Gonna need to turn that down in a bit, but with the clap, snare, whatever you're gonna do, if it's above 130-ish, I'd say, always do it on like a third measure basis, right? So 1 2 clap type thing. And then like mix them like wherever sounds good to you. But you want to have that rhythm stay on the third because of how fast it's moving. But if it's under that, you can play around with doing like 2 4 and like stuff like that. It's more of like a club rhythm, I guess you could say. So I guess it depends what kind of song you're making and what the tempo is, but and then make sure this is always set to default your soft clipper. And then we're gonna add some other stuff to give these drums some life. We're gonna add like a percussion in the background type thing. Percussion stuff, like the sounds are so random. It's like you really couldn't just categorize them in one way because there are so many different varieties. Um, they're just random sounds, man. I'm gonna use this one because I like it. Also, if it sounds like I'm like sighing or something, I'm like totally having a whack asthma attack. No, I'm not having an asthma attack, but fucking hell, it feels like when I used to deal with that shit. Holy shit, man. Okay. Um, I'm trying to think. What do I want? I'm gonna put my own. Like, I'm gonna put a fresh EQ on this. I got this little. Video game perk. I'm just gonna high pass it, crank that up a bit. I'm gonna take down probably around 400 hertz. It's 400 hertz is just a frequency that you will avoid like the plague in most of your things. It's just not a good sound. So go ahead and just cut that out whenever you can with this type of stuff with drums and everything and 808s and all that. We're gonna add a little bit of reverb to give it kind of like some wetness to it. Let's see. Boom. All right. Make sure it's got the enveloping tools on. If you see something where it's like the sample when they bring it in, there's the space and the wavelength, just go to sample start, slowly crank it up till it's at the start, and then that fixes that problem. And so all I'm gonna do with this percussion thing in the background here, I'm just gonna add it to a few different spots to kind of give it more rhythm to the overall sound of the drums. If you want to mute out the melody while you do this, it can help to some people. All right, so I'm just keeping this super simple, very simple like thing with the pattern here, but it gives it that little bit of that ring that you need to just kind of bring it back into focus. And so that's what we got going on there, and we're ready to move on to the bass, and then after that we're going to do a little bit of an alt melody, but I like to do that afterwards because I just get so excited with the bass and the drums. So we'll do a little bit of pre-mixing, turn this down a bit because it's way too loud. Alright, now finding the 808, the right 808 can be tough. It's like, what kind of 808s are there? It's like walking into a restaurant being like, what do you sell? I mean, it's like, what are you hungry for? What kind of sound are you looking for? Do you need, I mean, there are short 808s, there are thumpy 808s, more smooth ones. A lot of it comes down to the equalizer, but just to keep it simplistic, I'm going to use one that everybody knows, a lot of people have, the Spins 808. Very common 808. You can do a lot with it. It's very dynamic. You can use it just the way it is. You can increase it, make it more thumpy, punchy, whatever. So yeah. Same thing, turn off loop points, go over enveloping tools. Then I'm gonna go to this effects target and go up to boost. So you see how there's this little wrench here? I'm not sure what this symbol is, but next to it, you just click that and have all these different ones. These ones I play around with occasionally, all these effects, but you really don't need them. All I want you to worry about is this boost up here. Um, be careful. It's like poison. It can be overdone very easily. As you can see, it brings the entire wavelength up and it just boosts it out, hence the name boost. So you can press your comma key and it'll play a flat C note so you can hear how it sounds with different boost. So also what I like to do is you see how it's boosted like this and it's just taking up so much space. This can get kind of messy. So if you boost it, go to your out, go back over to this wrench, and then go over to where it says out. Just turn it up a little bit, not too much. You still want to hold on to your 808, but you don't want it to be like just busting at the seams with every single note because I mean that gets obnoxious, that gets painful for the listener. Sorry. Yeah, so you just want to it's very like case specific. I know that it's not a very good answer, but I'll show you the equalizing. in a minute, but first let's get some notes down. I like to start off by putting them way high up, so it's going to sound funky when you're making it, but then you drop it down a couple octaves and it sounds normal. The reason for this is you can hear the notes more specifically. You can hear more of the nuances of it as a human ear instead of just thinking about it like in terms of notes. You can just really hear it go along. This was a little bit more fun than I was originally anticipating, but it's got a lot of different notes going on with it. And I can just literally copy this over, and then like I said, we're going to take it back down octaves. And then it sounds normal. But extremely rough mixing, of course. So 808 mixing, let's go. If you watched any of the videos before, you know the drill. First thing is high pass, 20 hertz. Don't need to hear anything under 20 hertz. It's just dead noise. Doesn't really matter. Um, I'm gonna go to 80 hertz, 60 to 80 hertz. I like to give it a nice little boost. So we're gonna turn up the gain, probably about 2.7 decibels. Go to 400. Avoid it like the plague. Take it back like 4. It doesn't have to be a ton. On your 808s, you want 8,000, like 7 to 8,000 to be boosted. It gives it more of like a tap to it. And then last on the low pass, just make sure it's like it varies. If you want really low thumpy bass, turn it down to like 10. If you want it to just be like regular 808s, chunky, not too much of anything, I would put to like 35 to 40, maybe even 30. Um, I'm gonna move it around while it's playing to show you like the different sounds. So we're gonna start off with like something maybe regular, and then I'm gonna turn it down. So you see how it kind of just gets like that little bit of that ring to it, but like it doesn't really hold on to much of the sound. I'm gonna set it to 18 hertz, or yeah, 18 hertz. Sorry, 18K hertz that is. So we got our equalizer on there. The next thing I'm going to do is if you have this, great. If you don't, it's fine. You don't really need it. You can use distortion. So I'm actually going to show you two ways. The first way is if you were on the cheap and you just want to use free stuff, go to your fruity fast disc, so that's your distortion, and then it's going to sound terrible. That's why I got to mess with it. Go to your threshold, turn it down to 20, mix level, 80, and then post 80, and then turn your pre up to about 80. I lied. Turn your post down a bit. Screw around with that, but that's basically how you would add that extra layer of oomph, saturation to it. It's not great, but for the cheap, it's pretty good. You can make it sound good if you screw around with it right. But well, I don't know why I say on the cheap because saturation knob is free. But if you didn't have that installed, that's what you could do. But what I'm going to do is I have this saturation knob plugin, so I'm just going to toss this on here. It's a very large plugin, not large, very large, but it's relatively large plugin, so it takes a bit to run. But I'm going to set it to neutral, turn it up to like 1 point, no, 0.8, and then you can immediately hear the difference. You just see it gives it more of a body to it. And then lastly, I'm going to put soft clipper on. I got my dogs barking in the background, but whatever. And then I'll go through and make an alt melody, but because my dogs are barking and things are taking off, I'm gonna leave y'all here with this.
Bassbleed.